Book of Cpenta-Armij, daughter of Jehovah. Being of the first deliverance of God's chosen people. Chapter I. 1 Jehovah spake to Cpenta-Armij, goddess of heat Sati, in Nirvana, in the ark of Cpenta, commander of the south fields of Abram, in the Orient plains of Bilathauchiun, of a reign of 200,000 years. Surveyor for Utzias, 10,000 years. Leader of the Oahspe, 70,000 years. Captain of Galilea's roadways, in the forest of Luga, 20,000 years. Founder and ruler of Issas, 30,000 years. Trencher of the Haguset swamps, 4,000 years. Goddess of Nor, goddess of Unigi, goddess of Plateau, each 10,000 years, saying to my daughter, behold, the red star and her heavens come thy way. She will cross the ark of Cpenta, 4 years and 32 days riding. Open thou thy fields in Abram, and give her 40 years indulgence, for this is the first of her deliverances. 3. Cpenta-Armij answered, saying, I see the red star, the earth, O Jehovah. Like a wandering ship in a wide ocean she cometh through my fields, the young earth, travelling on, carefully, in the roads of Salquatka. Hath she so soon, but little more than 60,000 years, overcome her enduring knots and torturing hells? 4. In thy wisdom and power, O Jehovah, I will go in person to this corporeal world, and encourage her God and lords for the excellent labor done. 5. Jehovah said, call thy counsel, and proclaim from my throne the feast of the ark of Cpenta. Then Cpenta-Armij called her high council, 100 millions, sons and daughters of Jehovah, and she ascended to her place in the midst of the throne of the Great Spirit. 6. And there were present Obed, god of Oahspe, Inumbric. Kavani, goddess of Ipthor, of the Celastis plains. Ab, first Shriva of Riv Seeing. Halanho, god of Lugam. Raci, goddess of Esdras. Wishtsi, god of Zuth, in Ronega. And all these gods and goddesses were above 100,000 years raised in Etherian realms, and knew the earth before inhabited by man. 7. On a visit to Cpenta-Armij were Oahspe, Orient chief of Maederland, 50,000 years, marshal of Wiskialu, 30,000 years, god of Tunsin, in the Tarps roads, 90,000 years. And Siwagun, chieftainess of the Orient ark of Sulos, 200,000 years, mistress of Aftung, in the plains of Bel, 300,000 years, Pilotes of Lualu, 100,000 years, goddess of Yun, in the mountains of Jem-King. And Ha-Ha, founder of Og, of Siam, of Wikawik, and the 12 Nirvanian Old Sea, in Lo-Owtz, Eliagam, together with their traveling hosts, each 5 millions. 8. Cpenta-Armij said, for thy glory, O Jehovah, I proclaim the feast of the ark of Cpenta. And these, my visiting hosts, shall enjoy the 4 years' deliverance of the red star and her heavens. 9. Then responded Oahspe, and then Siwagun, then Ha-Ha, speaking at great length, and rejoicing for the invitation. And they related many adventures on other stars in the time of the ark of deliverance, the ark of Cpenta, and with what gods and goddesses they journeyed, and what chiefs and chieftainesses. 10. So Cpenta-Armij spake to her chief marshal, saying, send thou heralds to the builders, and order me an Aravagna capable of 500 millions, and of speed, grade 60. After this thou shalt select from my attendants 100 millions, and after that 300 millions of the Aegisi. 11. With these, and with my visitors, I will start for the red star in 20 days. The proper officers attended to these things, and whilst they were moving about, behold, the red star, the earth, rose up in the far-off place, the roadway, and the Ezianors saw it, and they chanted 12. What is yonder? The red star, Jehovah. Thy breath hath spoken. Thy voice, the silent motion. O thy endless power, Jehovah. 13. Around about her, close. What is that filled with angels, thousands of millions? Wondrous are thy works, O Jehovah, and measureless. She riddeth around the sun, 270 million miles. 14. It is her atmosphere, traveling with her. Its boundary, Chenvat. How fearfully hast thou created, O Jehovah! And the magnitude of thy places. That little red star is a world, O Father. And the thousands of millions of angels, why do they stay in such heavens, O Jehovah? 15. Then the trumpeters afar off answered, she that spinneth round the sun, the red star, the earth, a new world, a generator of the souls of men. The gods have called her, but she will not hear. Her atmosphere is full of angels struggling for the earth. But thy hand is upon them, O Jehovah. Thy trumpeters will lie in the roads of Salquatka. 16. Then sang the Ezianors, how lovely are thy works, O Jehovah! Too lovely are thy places, O Jehovah! Too lovely is the red star, the earth, O Jehovah! Thy children love it while in mortal form. After death too much they love it, O Jehovah! 17. The pipers answer for Jehovah from the wide east, O so little to love, made I the earth, the red star. I gave her poison weeds and vines and grasses. Millions of death dealing to serpents. Then I created poisoned marshes and terrible fevers. In sore travail, and full of misery, created I man on the earth, that he should turn and look upward for a holier place. 18. Then sang the Enors, too lovely createdst thou thy atmospherean heavens, O Jehovah! Thy bound in heavens that travel with the red star, the earth. The spirits raised up from the mortal earth find too much to love in thy lower heavens, O Jehovah. 19. The pipers again answered for Jehovah, my lower heavens created I full of darkness and evil possibilities. A place for madness created I it. A place for lying and deceit. Full of hell and torments. To drive man upward. To blow my breath upon him, to lift him up, as one lighteth the fire by blowing. 20. Cpenta-Armij spake from Jehovah's throne, saying, what is the deliverance of man? Is it from his mother's womb? Is it from his corporeal body? Is it from the corporeal world and her atmosphere? 3 births hath the Father given unto all men. In the first, man hath nothing to do, as to his shaping or time in his mother's womb. In the second he hath a little more to do as to directing his course during his mortal life. But for the third, for the higher heavens, he must work for his own deliverance. 21. Cpenta-Armij said 3 kinds of earth deliverance for man created the Creator. First, from his mother's womb, coming crying, blank and helpless. Second, from the tetrach's earthly passions and desires, serious and full of fear. Third, from the enemies of the Great Spirit. This is the feast of Cpenta. Chapter E. 1 Cpenta-Armij said, I looked afar, and saw the earth and her heavens traveling on. I listened to the voice of mortals. A merchant counted over his gains. He said, this is heaven. A drunkard quaffed a cup of poison. He said, this is heaven. A wanton said, this is heaven. A general, red with blood, counted the badgers on his breast. He said, this is heaven. A tyrant, rich in toiling slaves, said, this is heaven. Then a vast multitude, all smeared with the blood of war, pointed to a field of mortals slain, and said, this is heaven. A farmer stretched wide his arms, toward his great possessions, uncultivated. He said, this is heaven. A little child with a toy said, this is heaven. 2. Then spake Jehovah, saying, none of these canst thou convince to the contrary. They are not ready for deliverance. 3. I listened to the voice of spirits, the angels traveling with the earth. A wanderer, going about, with nothing to do, said, this is heaven. An obsessor of mortals and of other angels said, this is heaven. The fairies, the butterfly angels, the triflers, that forever look in crystal waters to behold their own forms, said, this is heaven. The rollicking, deceiving angels, went and inspired mortals to falsehood. These angels said, this is heaven. Vampire angels, that nestle in the atmosphere of mortals, largely living on their substance, said, this is heaven. Evil angels, obsessing mortals for murder's sake, to make mortals burn houses and torture helpless creatures, said, this is heaven. 4. Then spake Jehovah, saying, "None of these canst thou convince to the contrary. They are not ready for deliverance." 5. Again I listened to the sounds coming from the far-off earth. And I heard the prayers of mortals. The king prayed for his kingdom and for himself. The general prayed for success in war. The merchant for great gains. The tyrant for great authority. 6. Jehovah said only the earth can answer such prayers. 7. I listened again for the prayers of mortals. They had great afflictions, dire diseases, and famines, and wars. The merchants were bankrupt, and there was great suffering, and they prayed for deliverance. 8. Jehovah said, "Shouldst thou deliver them, they would return to their old, evil habits." I say unto thee, the merchant shall be bankrupt. The king shall fail. The general be overthrown. The healthy shall be sick for a season. Save they know my power, they cannot learn. Save they feel affliction, they will not help one another. Shall a man say, "O Jehovah, come thou and heal the sick"? Shall he not first of all recognize my will and know my power? 9. To give money to the drunkard, what good is that? To give wealth and earthly prosperity to them that acknowledge not me, is to set them against me. To give healing to the fevered, is to teach them that I have no power in the unseen air. Answer not thou the prayers of these. 10. I listened once more to the prayers of mortals. And they were such as lived according to their highest light. They purified the flesh by pure food, and by bathing every day. And they went about doing good constantly, hoarding up neither clothes, nor silver, nor gold, nor anything earthly. And they purified their thoughts by putting away the evil tongue, and the evil eye, and evil ear. And many of them were bound by the kings, and the tyrants, and the laws of mortals. And some of them were sick. And they prayed, saying, "Great is my affliction, O Jehovah. I know that in thy sight I am justly punished." 11. But hear thou my prayer, O Father. Make me strong, that I may carry heavy burdens for the weary. Give me liberty, that I may go about helping the poor forever. Give me wisdom, that I may uncover thy glories before men. 12. Jehovah said, "Go thou, my daughter, and deliver them. They are ready for deliverance. Answer thou the prayers of such." 13. Then I called my hosts together, 500 millions, in the Nirvanian heavens in Heat-Sati, in Etheria, the highest heaven. And we entered into the air of Agna, as, swelling high on every side, the music of millions cheered us on. Upward, high up, shone the glimmering red star, whereon now our steersman pointed the fire arrow, to shoot meteor-like across Jehovah's pathway, and thitherward turned our buoyant souls, saluting our starters with a happy goodbye. 14. Arise. Arise. By my vested power in thee, O Jehovah, shall the elements fall before my will. Arise. Onward. To the red star, speed on. Air of Agna, upward. 1. 15. Thus spake Cpenta-Armij, her voice mellow and sweet, but so tuned to the spheres it could be heard the breadth of a world. And Jehovah, with whose power and will she had learned to be as one, by long experience and studying submission to his will, lent a willing ear and strong hand. Outshot the flames, the buoyant force manufactured by less skilled workmen learning the trade of gods, where whirled the million screws of fire, propelling, till the mighty ship reeled, and turned, and rose from its foundation, with all its joyous hosts aboard, shouting loud, and singing praise to him who ruleth over all. Then turning round and round, slowly, spiral-like, the great secret form and force of Vortis is now first revealed to man, to show the plan of worlds, and how holden in their places and moved in universal harmony and endless creation, the great air of Agna began her course in the roadway of Eawahtah, in Etheria, shooting toward the red star, the young earth. 16. Nearing first the Oaxanian spars of Achisu, where were gathered near the road 10 million spectators to see the goddess pass in her ship. And their banners waved, and their music burst forth most exhilarating. The which were answered by the air of Agna's cheering hosts and sailing streamers. She halted, to salute in honor, the goddess Uhtasiv, and then upward shot 1,000 miles suddenly. 17. again onward, turning the breadth of the road, 1,000,000 miles, to the right, to salute Vulcania, goddess of the swamps of Alasasic, where stood by the portico of her heavenly palace 70 million pupils, in their 1000th year of tuition, to receive the passing blessing of the Orient Chieftainess, Cpenta-Armij. And thither, but a halt, as it were a nod, and downward on their heads Cpenta-Armij sent a shower of newly created flowers from the sphere above, and in turn heard their chorus rise joyfully, in as many million words of love and admiration. 18. Still onward, upward sped the Eravagna, her hosts viewing the scenes on every side, here most, the richest part and most glorious places of Selquatka, where the Etherian worlds, rich in the glitter of swamps shining on the countless rainbow arches and crystal pyramids, afford an extensive view of the new Orient boundaries of Odyssean's broad kingdoms. Here course the thousands of excursionists from the measureless regions of the Han lights, where are to be seen 1,000,000 varieties of fire ships, of sizes from 10 miles across to the breadth of a world, in unceasing travel, in tens of thousands of directions, onward in their ways, every several one a history of millions of years, and of thousands of millions of souls, and every soul rich in the knowledge of thousands of worlds. 19. By music alone, some their ships propelled, the vibratory chords affording power sufficient in such high-skilled hands, and the tunes changing according to the regions traversed. Others, even by colors made in the waves of sound, went forward, carrying millions of angels, every one attuned so perfectly that his very presence lent power and beauty to the monarch vessel. And downward and upward, and east and west, and north and south, and of every angle and course. Such were the traveling regions of Welligouthi, in the Etherian fields of Odyssean. 20. And of the million ships, with their tens of thousands of millions of spirits, who so great a goddess, like Cpenta-Armij, could turn her well-learned eyes on anyone, and know its home regions, and from what Orient pastures sailed. Or perhaps Nirvanian rivers. Or, like our visiting friends now with her, great oaks, and Siwagun, and Ha-Ha, that with her stood side by side, reading the coursing fleets, and relating to one another who they were, and the great chiefs aboard, with whom thousands of years ago they had been together taming some rambling star and quieting its disturbed vortex, or perhaps surveying a roadway many millions of miles through an Augean forest. 21. And the while the Eravagna was shooting on in the hands of her proper officers, everyone to his part and all the hosts in varied amusement. For such is the labor of the high raised in heaven, labor itself becometh an amusement of great relish. Coming then to the crossings, near Bilithauchiun, where was a small colony, 90 million Etherian weavers, superintended by Cpenta-Armij's ward, Ho'ul, god of 2,000 years, who knew she was coming his way, and had lighted the roadway 100,000 miles in honor thereof, she turned the Eravagna and cast the streamers and banners, saluting. Here again Cpenta-Armij sent down to her beloved sons and daughters, for everyone, flowers and keepsakes. And on every flower was written the history and mission to the earth and her heavens. And then again the Eravagna upward rose and sped on. 22. Thus in Jehovah's wide universe went forth the goddess, the Chieftainess, Cpenta-Armij, went toward the red star. Passing through 10,000 varieties of Etherian worlds and roadways in the Geaean fields and forests of high heaven, seeing millions of Etherian ships going hither and thither, every one knowing its own mission and field of labor, whilst the highest raised gods and goddesses could exchange courtesies with the fiery vehicles, and speak them, to know whither bent, and for what purpose. 23. Then rising high, here on a level leath the earth, here the boundary of her vortex, Chunvat, just beyond the sweep of the moon, halteth here to view the rolling earth, her land and water, and her atmospherean heavens, the sojourning place of the newly dead, and of such as have not aspired to rise to holier heavens. 24. Quickly, now, Cpenta-Armij taketh in the situation, and ordereth on the Eravagna, which now taketh a downward course, steering straight toward the habitable earth. Slowly now, turning slowly, and ascending. Viewing all the regions on every side in the great vortex, she spies the plateau Kreshivi, the place of God, new founded. 25. and to her companions and to her hosts quickly. Cpenta-Armij, of the Nirvanian Changlatha, explaineth the place. And, stretching forth her slender hand, itself most like a stream of fire, she crieth out, Behold my anchorage! Here bring my ship and make fast, where receiveth now the voices of my weary God and his lords, of me so long expectant. In thy wisdom and power, O Jehovah, I will raise them up. Chapter 3. 1. Jehovah spake to God, ruler of atmosphere and of the earth, saying, Well done, O my son! The beginning of the end of thy trials is at hand. I have spoken in the highest heavens, in my Etherian worlds. In the gardens of Heat near the ark of Oahspe, to my daughter, who hath attained to one with me, a Nirvanian in the regions of Changlatha, the holy Cpenta-Armij. 2. Her ship, an Jehovah, with 500 million Etherian deliverers on board, hath started on the road Southwatha, swiftly bound to thy regions, to thy new plateau, Krashivi. 3. Send thou word to Yima to come, and to Vishnu, and to us, each to come in rank, attended by 10 millions, grade above 70, with examiners, and marshals, and captains, and generals, to come to Krashivi. 4. And send thou invitations to thy Deva to come, and to thy sub-gods, and to thy lord gods, and to thy lords, in all the divisions of heaven and the divisions of the earth. And to bring of their people all above grade 50. And to thy marshals give thou a list of all who will be with thee in Krashivi on the day. And thy marshals shall apportion and divide and arrange all thy hosts thus assembled in Krashivi, according to grade, approaching thy throne in 4 lines, east and west and north and south, and thy throne shall be the extreme east. 5. And in the center of the cross shall thy marshal provide space sufficient for the hosts of Cpenta-Armij to land her Jehovah, and to disembark. But at the extreme boundary of the lines of thy hosts thou shalt draw a circle, and thither shall thy light makers erect pillars of light, making the circle as a wall of light. And, as the diameter of the circle is to the distance down to the earth's surface, so 1/10 thereof shalt thou make as the summit of the apex of the canopy of thy capital chamber, for the holy counsel of thy goddess, Cpenta-Armij. 6. God said, Thy will be done, O Jehovah. And thereupon God sent word by his messengers, as commanded by the Great Spirit. Sent invitations to all the gods and lords of heaven and earth, commanding them to come to Krashivi. 7. And the Lord gods and lords, thus notified, appointed substitutes to rule in their places. And they made out heavens, everyone suitable to the number of angels he was to take with him, and they embarked and rose up from their several places in atmosphere and the earth, and, being guided in their courses by such experts as had learned the way, they came to Krashivi, where they were received by the chief marshal of God and his officers, and allotted their several places, according to their respective grades. But as the plateau was above grade 50 in the earth's vortex, so there were no angels of less grade than 50 amongst all the hosts assembled. 8. And Jehovah commanded God to number the angels thus assembled in Krashivi, and there were 7,000 millions, and 975 millions, and 800,000, officers in all. 9. And the day and the hour of their assembling, when they were numbered, was the self-same time that Cpenta-Armij's fire ship arrived at Chinvat, when her light burst in full view to the hosts of God in Krashivi. And they all beheld her coming. Saw the manner in which a chieftainess cometh to the lower heavens. And because of the great glory before them, they burst forth in a song of praise to Jehovah, the 7,000 millions. 10. Jehovah spake to God, saying, Ascend thy throne, my son, and allot the counsel and thy officers to their place, for quickly now, behold, my daughter will descend. And when she cometh, my voice will be with her for the years and the days of the dawn of Dan. 11. So God caused his counsel and his marshal and his Deva to take their places and be in readiness for the emancipated sons and daughters. And presently the descending star grew brighter and larger and brighter, till like a sun she shone abroad over all the plateau of Krashivi. 12. In awe stood the gods at sight of the sublime spectacle. For the light of the Jehovah was brilliant, and unlike all the lights of the lower heavens, and new to nearly all the people. 13. Nearer and nearer descended the ship of light, till soon the music of her hosts descended down to those beneath, who, awe-stricken and buoyant with delight, burst forth, entranced with the glory thereof, singing, by the force of Jehovah's light upon them, the same glorious anthem. 14. And now the marshals spread the way, for close at hand came the era of Agna, over the bows of which Cpenta-Armij shone like a central sun, and with her, her visiting hosts, Oahspe and Sewagun. So, but for Cpenta-Armij holding out her taper hand, the hosts below had hardly known which of the four great lights Jehovah had sent. Presently the curtains swept across the high pyramid of the capital, and then the transparent blankets and crystal framework. And now shot down the anchors, 300,000. Lower and lower, slowly came the mighty ship, till her screenwork, from which the anchors hung, touched the very floors of the capital. And, all radiant with holiness, before God and his hosts stood the Ethereans, the glory of the most high heavens. 15. The attendants then quickly spread the Homa. The masters of arches opened the floor and sides of the era of Agna, and there, seated or standing, was ready the central part of the Etherean council chamber, even as if the throne of God had been built for it. Then came forth the chieftainess, Cpenta-Armij, accompanied by Oahspe and Sewagun, and arriving before the throne stood, waiting for the salutation and the sign. 16. God, still sitting on the throne, said, Daughter of Jehovah, chieftainess of Oahspe, in the name of the Father. And hereupon he gave the sign arc of Speta. Cpenta-Armij and her three companions saluted in the sign of the circuit, which was the highest compliment any god of the earth had ever received. 17. Cpenta-Armij said, By Jehovah's command am I before thee, O God. In love and wisdom and power am I come. Behold, my voice is his voice, creator of worlds. 18. God said, My throne is founded in Jehovah's name. Come thou and honor it, and bring thy most high gods and goddesses with thee. 19. They went forward then, and all the gods and goddesses, and lords and lordesses stood up, saluting by shaking hands. And then Cpenta-Armij went and sat in the midst of the throne. Meanwhile, the Ezianors chanted a hymn of thanksgiving. 20. Cpenta-Armij, being under the voice of Jehovah, said, For joy created I man and woman. For seasons of labor and seasons of recreation. Be ye mirthful before me, and jubilant toward one another, in remembrance of my creations. And when I call you to labor, behold, my hand will move upon you for the furtherance of my kingdoms in their resurrections. 21. Hereupon the multitude broke off from their places in stateliness, and commingled together joyfully. And all that were on the throne came down and went into the multitude, saluting and rejoicing. Chapter IV. Of the birth of Abram, Brahma and Eawahtah. 1 For 2 whole days Cpenta-Armij left the people in recreation, but on the third she ascended the throne, and lo and behold, even in that same moment of time, a light spread abroad over all the place, so that the people comprehended indeed what was meant by Jehovah's hand being upon them. And they all resumed their places, whereupon Jehovah spake through Cpenta-Armij, saying to whom I brought with me from Oahspe shall be my counsel during dawn. But the portals shall remain open on every side. 3. Who are not of my counsel are not bound unto these, my labors, and the same shall go and come as they choose, remembering the call of their respective gods. 4. For know ye all, that whoever aspireth to me shall come to me. But the nearest way for many is round about. Ye being above grade 50 are already more to me and for me than against me or from me, and in equal degree are cast upon your own responsibility. For such is the light of my kingdoms, from the first to the highest to the child, no responsibility. To grade 25, 1/4. To 50, 1/2. To 75, 3/4. But to the emancipated in my Etherean realms, responsibility not only to self but to all who are beneath. 5. Wherein my highest worlds are responsible for the lowest, being bound unto one another through me for the resurrection of all. 6. In this day am I come to deliver my gods down to the earth, to walk on the earth with mortals, raising them up in my name. 7. They who shall be raised up in me, even those still of the earth, shall be holden alike responsible for all who are beneath them. For with my light and power before them, and doing in my name, they that are beneath them will hold them, not only on the earth, but in heaven, for their labors and words. 8. The voice departed, and then Cpenta-Armij spake in her own behalf, saying, once around earth and heaven will I now travel, seeing with mine own eyes and hearing with mine own ears, even as is commanded of me by the Father. That I may know of mine own knowledge the condition of mortals and of the spirits who dwell both with them and in the lowest heavens. He who is still your God shall abide with you, and on this throne, until I return. 9. Cpenta-Armij then descended and sat at the foot of the throne, and Oahspe and Sewagan with her, whereupon God went down and took her hand, saying, Arise, O goddess, and go thy way. And then he raised up the other three in the same way, and they saluted and stood aside. Now, as soon as God raised them up, the all-light settled upon him, and he again ascended the throne, and sat in the midst. Then spake Cpenta-Armij, saying to God 10. Jehovah hath commanded the raising of a voice in 4 divisions of the earth. What is thy light, O God? God said 11. In Japheth I have raised up a man named Po, on the Huan of the Ihan side, of grade 95. In Arabania I have raised up a man named Abram, an Ihan of the Ihan side, of grade 95. In Vindu I have raised up a man named Brahma, an Ihan of the Ihan side, of grade 99. Eawahtah I have raised up a man named Eawahtah, an Ihan of the Ihan side, of grade 95. 12. The Louis who have accomplished this labor are still with their wards, but are apprised of thy coming. Behold, I send with thee messengers who will answer thy commands. 13. Hereupon, Cpenta-Armij, with her hosts, departed, and entered Emotevan which God had previously prepared for her. And she took with her 1,000,000 attendants, going straight down to the earth. And first of all to visit mortals and mortal kingdoms, kings and queens, temples and oracles, and then to see Po and Abram and Brahma and Eawahtah, all of whom were sufficiently illumined to see her and to know she was the person of the All-Voice. 14. Next after these she visited all the heavenly kingdoms belonging to the earth, going first to the heavenly kingdom, belonging to Japan, thence to Eon, of Japheth, thence to Ead, and so on until she saw them all. 15. After that Cpenta-Armij returned to Kreshivi, making a circuit sufficient to examine all the plateau below the belt meteorus. 16. Now the whole time Cpenta-Armij had been gone was 32 days. Whilst she had been absent, God extended the receiving grounds of Kreshivi 12,000 miles in breadth toward the south, and founded 60 colonies. For even now were, and would be, for the 4 years to come, ships arriving daily with hundreds of thousands of angels who were being prepared for the degree of brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah, ready for the third resurrection. 17. Messengers had arrived in Kreshivi daily from Cpenta-Armij, so that God knew when she would return. And accordingly he had prepared all things in readiness, and she was received in the name of the Father, in due ceremony. 18. And Cpenta-Armij ascended the throne of God and sat in the midst, and a light like a sun settled around about her. Her companions, gods and goddesses, now sat not near her, though on the throne to the right and left. Whilst they were taking in their respective places, the Ezianors were chanting anthems, and the awe and majesty of the scene were magnified to the utmost. Chapter V. 1. When the light fell upon Cpenta-Armij, the voice of Jehovah spake through her, saying 2. In thee whom I made God over the earth and her heavens I am well pleased. By my hand hast thou raised them up. Through thee have I maintained the diva even unto this day. 3. Thou shalt have honor in my exalted heavens because thou art the first in Cpenta. But thou shalt crown thy glory by descending to the earth and walking with mortals for the term of 4 years, even with my son, Brahma. And when thy time is completed, I will come and deliver thee and Brahma. 4. in my name shalt thou raise thy voice and establish me amongst men. And I will be with thee in wisdom and power. Take thy attendance and proceed to thy labor. In whatsoever thou desirest of me, call, and I will answer, for I have messengers who shall labor betwixt us. 5. God then saluted, and withdrew. Next came Yima, and to him Jehovah spake, saying 6. Being one with God, thou shalt labor even as he laboreth. And thou shalt descend to the earth, even to my corporeal son, Po, who hath been prepared in my name, and with him shalt thou walk the earth 4 years. And thou shalt speak in my name, establishing me amongst mortals, to the end that my chosen shall be delivered into my kingdoms. For thou shalt lead them away from the mortal kings, and teach them to know me as their only king. 7. Take, then, thy attendance and go to thy labor, and at the end of 4 years I will appoint a successor to thee, and I will deliver thee into my Etherian kingdoms. 8. Yima then saluted and stood aside. Next came Vishnu, renowned for his labor in Vindu and her heavens. To him Jehovah said 9. Being one with God, thou shalt with him fulfill the completion of Cpenta in my name. To which end thou shalt descend to the corporeal earth, even Arabenia, and dwell thereon for the period of 4 years, with my corporeal son, Abram. With Abram shalt thou walk and sojourn day and night, speaking and laboring in me as fully as my very self. And thou shalt deliver my chosen away from the king's peoples, teaching them to have no king but me, their Creator. To Abram shalt thou reveal my name, Jehovah, and establish it in secret, with due rites and ceremonies. And at the end of 4 years will I appoint a successor to thee. And thee will I deliver into my emancipated worlds. Take, then, thy attendance and depart to thy labor, and I will be with thee in wisdom and power. Vishnu then saluted and stood aside. 10. Next came Us, sent by the Etherian regions of Heat Sati to deliver the kingdoms of Japan and Helest and their heavens, but who was now relieved by the divan successor. To us Jehovah spake, saying 11. In honor of thy volunteering in the days of darkness for the relief of God and his kingdoms, I now create thee God of the first Cpenta of the red star, and crown thee with mine own hand. 12. And, lo and behold, even with these spoken words, a light descended in the form of a crown and settled upon his head. Thereupon Jehovah said, in which I have made thee a lawful div with corporeal power. 13. And thou shalt descend to the corporeal earth, even to Gautama, and walk with my son, Eawahtah, whom the Luis have bred from my voice, for the term of 4 years, sojourning with him day and night, gathering together the remnants of my lost tribes, and establishing them in faith of the Great Spirit, in my name, Iguquim, suitable to the utterance I have created them. 14. And at the end of 4 years I will appoint a successor to thee. And thee I will restore into my Etherian worlds. Take, then, thy attendance and depart to thy labor, and I will be with thee in wisdom and power. 15. Then I saluted and stood aside, and the voice departed. Then Cpenta-Armij, on her own account, said this hour, even now, I dissolve the Deva with honor and glory unto them. The kingdoms ye ruled over shall be my kingdoms during dawn. In the Father's name I assume them and their affairs. Peace and love and wisdom and power be with you all, Amen. 16. The 4 inspiring gods then departed, and in the outer circuit of Krashivi they had in waiting, which their attendants had prepared beforehand, each one an otevan fully equipped and ready, into which they embarked, with their attendants, 50,000 each. The musicians then saluted them, even as they moved off, severally, in direct lines for the earth. 17. Cpenta-Armij then lowered the light a little, and her 3 visiting companions, Oaks, Haroha and Siwagun, sat near her on the throne, even before her Etherian council, 500 millions. 18. Cpenta-Armij said, I have visited the earth and her heavens, even her heavens on her very surface. By the power vested in me, I relieve from duty all lords and gods, and sub-gods, and sub-lords, on the earth and in the heavens of the earth. This my messengers will communicate to them, commanding them, in my love and wisdom, which are one with the Father, to come at once to Krashivi, that I may honor them and apportion them for the third resurrection, which will occur in 4 years. 19. To the Lord Dom, Maitreya's, founded by Vishnu, I appoint and allot Yugzasu Lord, with 30 millions of my Etherian hosts, to be chosen by himself. Let Yugzasu come before me. Yugzasu then came before Jehovah's throne, and Cpenta-Armij said unto him, Repair thou unto Maitreya's, taking thy hosts with thee. And when thou art come to the place, possess it in Jehovah's name, and order it after the manner of a Lord Dom, providing sub-kingdoms unto thy places may be required. 20. And thou shalt have dominion over all angels that are already with the plateau of Maitreya's, or such as may be hereafter sent to thee from the other heavenly divisions and from the earth. And thou shalt provide thy kingdom unto the service of the Father, chiefly to prevent angels returning to the earth to obsess and pollute mortals. For thou shalt find hundreds of millions of them who have no aspiration but destruction. Many of them were slain in wars on the earth, and are still seeking vengeance, and if escaping to the earth, obsess mortals to burn cities, and to murder, and to all manner of wickedness. 21. Thy labor, O Lord, is not to reform them or teach them, for I shall appoint and allot others to that end. But thou shalt labor wholly and entirely to prevent the return of Maitreya's to mortals. And that thou shalt be strong before them, thou shalt draw from all other heavenly kingdoms, which I shall found, a sufficient guard to enforce my commandments. 22. For 4 years shalt thou labor in this matter, and thou shalt also raise up one with thy Lord Dom, to be thy successor after thee. Take, then, thy hosts and go to thy labors, and the Father will be with thee in wisdom and power. 23. Yugzasu then made his selections from Cpenta-Armij's hosts, and they came and passed before Jehovah's throne, saluting, and then withdrew and went into a ship which had, likewise, been prepared for them by the proper persons, whose labor lies in that matter. And, having saluted with music, they departed, Yugzasu and his hosts, rejoicing. 24. Again Cpenta-Armij spake, saying, Behold, the time is now come upon the earth when I will divide and allot unto each of its several great divisions heavenly kingdoms accordingly. 25. To Japan, because she is a remnant of the submerged continent, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Swasu. 26. To Japheth, because she has preserved much of the first language, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Haijitsi. 27. To Vindu, because she is the most advanced in holiness of all the earth, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Vrimi. 28. To Arabanya, because she is the foundation of Jehovah's migratory hosts who shall go forth around the earth, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Paradise. 29. To Helest, because she was rescued from darkness by us in time to meet the Sark, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Cpenta. 30. To Europa, because she was first founded by a woman, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Himmel. 31. To South Gautama, because she is the least inhabited of all the great divisions of the earth, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Aden. 32. To North Gautama, because she is the ground on which the circumscribing of the earth by the different nations shall take place, where the revelations of heaven and earth shall be made to man, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Kosman. 33. To all the South Islands, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Flu. 34. To all the North Islands, I establish a heavenly kingdom, and it shall be called Sinyat. 35. Hereupon the light of Jehovah overspread Cpenta-Armij, and his voice spake through her, saying to my 10 heavenly kingdoms which I have made through my daughter, Behold, I choose 10 lords, and my 10 lords shall go to the kingdoms I apportion unto them. In my name shall my lords build unto me 10 heavenly places of delight, for the spirits of the dead that rise up from the earth. 36. And my lords shall establish in my kingdoms places of learning and places of labor. Places for the sick and helpless angels that arise up from the earth, that my lords shall raise them up, to know me and the glory of the worlds I have created for them. Inspiring them to perfect themselves in wisdom and purity and power, that they may arise and inherit my Etherian heavens. 37. And my Lord shall appoint Ashers unto mortals at the time of their corporeal birth. And the said Ashers shall be appointed in watch and watch, that they may relieve one another, having a time of labor and a time of rest. And my Lord shall so appoint my Ashers that each and every Asher shall have 100 changes of labor with 100 different mortals, in order to learn all the varieties of men and women I have created. And the number of Ashers shall be equal to the number of mortals dwelling on the earth. 38. And my Lord shall appoint Asaphs to reside in heaven, sufficient in number to receive the spirits of all who die on the earth, which they shall receive from the Ashers in my name. And the Asaphs shall take such angels, thus received, and place them in the regions my Lord shall have prepared for them, where there shall be sufficient of teachers and nurses and physicians in my heavenly places to administer unto them. 39. And my Lord shall provide discipline to the spirits thus received, who shall be trained according to the divine law which I established through my gods, which shall extend beyond the Ession even to the 30th grade. 40. And my Lord shall provide for them that have attained to the 30th grade to be sent in suitable ships to this place, Krishivi, and deliver them to my daughter, Cpenta-Armij, and to her successor, god or goddess, who shall have dominion over the whole earth and her heavens. 41. For behold, it is the nature of man on the earth to go after earthly things instead of heavenly. And it is the nature of the Ession to strive for the earth instead of my higher heavens. Be ye guarded, therefore, to lay a foundation to prevent angels and mortals from going downward. To provide inspiration to make them desire to ascend to my holy regions. 42. The voice now departed, and Cpenta-Armij spake on her own account in Jehovah's name, saying 43. Whosoever I call, let them come before Jehovah's throne, for they shall be the Lord's whom I shall anoint for the heavenly kingdoms I have established. 44. Plateau, Lord of Swasu, a heavenly place over Japan. 45. Oahspe, Lord of Hijitsi, a heavenly place over Japheth. 46. Lugam, Lord of Vimy, a heavenly place over Vindu. 47. Ha-Kappa, Lord of Paradise, a heavenly place over Arabania. 48. Jesse, Lordess of Speta, a heavenly place over Helest. 49. Johann, Lord of Imel, a heavenly place over Europa. 50. Hinatsi, Lordess of Aden, a heavenly place over South Gautama. 51. Ami, Lordess of Kosman, a heavenly place over North Gautama. 52. Horam, Lord of Flu, a heavenly place over the southern islands. 53. Poots, Lordess of Sinyot, a heavenly place over the northern islands. 54. All the angels named came before Cpenta-Armij when called, and they now stood abreast Jehovah's throne, whereupon the all-light overspread the place, and the Father's voice spake through Cpenta-Armij, saying 55. Ye are my lords and lordesses, by me raised up and allotted your places. For 4 years shall ye labor, even to the end of this dawn. And ye shall provide successors to take your places after you. And herein lies your greatest glory and mine. For they that succeed you shall hold dominion 200 years. And they in turn shall provide successors after them, and so on, for these successions shall continue till the ark of Bon. 56. With mine own hand weave I crowns, and crown you severally from my kingdoms. 57. When these words were spoken, the now fast gathering light, of a variety of colors, took the shape of 10 separate crowns, and descended on the heads of the lords and lordesses. The voice ceased, but Cpenta-Armij spake on her own account, in Jehovah's name, saying 58. My lords and lordesses, go to your labors in the love, wisdom and power of the Father, and he will be with you. And ye shall be a glory in his kingdoms. Choose ye, therefore, each and every one 10 millions of my hosts, who shall go with you to your places, to be afterward exchanged or divided, as I may direct. That ye may choose in order, he who was first appointed shall choose first, the second next, and so on until ye have your chosen. 59. All these lords and lordesses were of the higher light, and knew beforehand, and had in like manner already chosen their attendants, so that at a given signal the multitudes thus chosen rose up and came before the throne, forming 10 groups of 10 millions each. And they at once formed in line and passed before Jehovah's throne, saluting in the sign, birth of Cpenta on the earth, and Cpenta-Armij answered in the sign, Jehovah and the lower heavens. 60 Cpenta-Armij said, for the glory of this scene, I bequeath a day of rest, that my hosts may witness the departure of the fleets of Jehovah's lords and lordnesses. At once the hosts joined in a mighty chorus of thanksgiving and praise. And they went without and saw the ships laden with a joyous cruise. Saw them set their great fleet in motion. Sang and shouted to them in Jehovah's love, for the glory of his high heavens. Chapter Vi. 1. In the beginning of the second year of Cpenta-Armij in Creshivi, messengers came before Jehovah's throne, saluting, and greeting from Ctusk, who now lived under the name, Ahura, and submitted the following communication, to wit to Ctusk, who hath become Ahura, a servant of Jehovah, and is now God of Elkin by just judgment of Jehovah, desireth audience with the Most High raised Cpenta-Armij, daughter of the Great Spirit. 3. To the Cpenta-Armij answered greeting, in love to my brother, Ahura. By the grace and power of Jehovah, come and see me, bringing thy attendants. Now, after the lapse of a few days, Ahura came to Creshivi, attended by 1 million, escorted by music, and proclaimed according to the discipline of the higher heavens, with heralds and trumpeters. And Cpenta-Armij's hosts received Ahura and conducted him and his hosts within the capital chamber. And Ahura went before Jehovah's throne, saluting on the sign, second plateau, and Cpenta-Armij answered in Nirvanian road, Salquatka. She said, 4. In the name of the Great Spirit, whose daughter I am, I welcome thee in love and high esteem. I know all thy past record, and do look upon thee as the foundation of one of Jehovah's brightest sons. Long have I desired that thou shouldst petition to come to see me. And much desired I to see thee and greet thee in the Father's name. 5. Ahura said, O thou most high Chieftainess, of hundreds of thousands of years, how can I stand before thee? I know thou hast seen many truants in thy day, and watched their course thousands of years. Thou canst see before me all that awaiteth me and mine. The past and the future are as an open book before thee. That I have stood before thee and looked upon thee, I am blessed above all things since the day of my birth. 6. Behold, the hand of the Great Spirit hath appeared before me. I comprehend the only road that leadeth on to everlasting resurrections. I know that the one all person must ever stand as the keynote for angels and mortals. Without him, a man is as a ship without a rudder. The seas around about him drive him to ruin in the end. Blessed is he who hath had the experience of this in an early day of his life. Nervous and full of fear is he who hath been tried 2,000 years. 7. Then spake Cpenta-Armij, saying, I perceive thy desires, O Ahura. I understand why thou art before me. Thy wisdom is great indeed. Thou perceivest that thy plateau is in the second removal from the earth. Thou fearest that some of thy hosts will forsake Jehovah, and usurp kingdoms of their own, even as thou didst in time past. Thou desirest me to raise thy plateau farther away from the corporeal earth. 8. Ahura said, If it be Jehovah's will, even for this purpose am I come before thee. 9. Now came a great light, bright, like a sun, and settled over the throne, enveloping the goddess, Cpenta-Armij, and Jehovah's voice spake out of the light to Ahura, saying, 10. My son, why hast thou so little faith? Behold, I am with thee even as with this, my daughter. All thou lackest is faith. Go thou back to thy plateau and raise thou it thyself. My daughter shall come to thee, and show thee, and thou shalt not fail. To have faith in me is to be one with me. To lack faith in me is to be far removed from me. 11. Ahura said, O Jehovah, teach thou me how to begin to have faith. To find the beginning, there is my stumbling block. 12. Jehovah said, by trying me, there is the beginning. By learning to know thine own power in me, and to know my power in thee. This is the sum of all power and wisdom. By the lack of faith in me, man setteth up himself. By the lack of faith in me, the self-assuming gods build kingdoms for themselves. 13. The failure of man is proof of my power. The failure of all kingdoms is proof of the lack of faith in me, whereby my power is manifested over them. First, after the abjuring of self, cometh the constant manifestation of power through faith, the example of which holdeth the multitude to me and my works. 14. Inasmuch as thou hast suffered fear in thy soul for a relapse in thy kingdom, thou hast opened the door for disaster. Have I not proved this on earth? Wherein the faith of a captain leadeth his soldiers on a victory, and his lack of faith breaketh them down in weakness. Think not, O Ahura, that my examples are less with my gods. 15. If, therefore, my daughter should come to thy kingdom and raise it up, behold, she would lessen thy host's faith in thee. For which reason thou shalt return to Alcan, and proclaim to thy people that thou wilt raise thy plateau. And though millions of them will consider it vanity, and beyond thy power, behold, I will provide unto thee that thou shalt not fail. 16. Ahura said, I perceive thy wisdom, O Jehovah. That which thou hast put upon me, I know I shall accomplish through thee. The voice departed, and Cpenta-Armij spake on her own account, saying, Thou shalt proclaim a day for this great work. And thou shalt send invitations to me and my hosts, and to my gods and lords, goddesses and lordesses. Send thou, therefore, thy surveyors and inspectors, and determine whether thou wouldst raise thy plateau, and thou shalt be provided from my hosts whatever assistance thou mayst need. 17. Ahura then saluted, and he and his hosts departed without the capital chamber, where they rested a while in recreation with the Etherian hosts, and then they entered their ship and departed, and returned to Alcan. After which Ahura appointed the day for the resurrection, and sent messengers throughout Atmospheria, proclaiming what he would do, inviting gods and lords, with their attendants, to come and spend a day with him. 18. Jehovah spake to Cpenta-Armij, saying, Send thou thy mathematicians to estimate the grade of Ahura's plateau. And send thy surveyors to the place he hath chosen, that thy hosts may know the power required. And provide thou from thine own hosts, privily, suitable stationers that Ahura shall not fail. For, in time to come, Ahura shall be one of my greatest of gods. Chapter 7. 1. Ahura immediately on his return to his kingdom set about accomplishing this great labor. 2. Now there were with Ahura many who had been sub-gods and were captains and generals under him whilst he was in rebellion against Jehovah and his kingdoms. And when they heard of the proclamation they said within their souls, What, is it possible Ahura is at his old games? For they knew not his concert with the kingdoms above, and so believed not in his power. 3. Jehovah moved upon Ahura, and induced him to send numerators and graders throughout his kingdom, to take the measure of those who had faith, and of those who had no faith, and of those who had neither faith nor non-faith. And these Ahura graded and numbered, so when the time came he should know where to place them. Then he numbered the unlearned and dumb, and then the enthusiastic. And he graded them and arranged them also. 4. When he had this much accomplished, there came to him one Oahspe, a former sub-god, and he said to Ahura, Privily I love thee, Ahura, and for that reason come before thee. Thou shalt meet only failure and disaster in thy undertaking. How many times, in thy mighty kingdom of Tusk, didst the All-High fail to come to thee? 5. Ahura said, Because of thy love I rejoice in thee. But because of thy lack in faith I deplore thee. How long will it be before angels and mortals understand the Father and his kingdoms? Behold, in the days of Tusk I labored not for Jehovah, but for myself and my exaltation, and for the exaltation of my kingdom for mine own ends. Hence the All-High came not to answer my prayers. Now, in this matter, I am doing that which is not for me, nor for my kingdom for mine own sake, but for the Father's sake only. And I know he will not fail me. 6. Oahspe said, Hath it not been from the time of the ancients till now, that certain ones say that by prayer and faith all things are possible, assuring us, moreover, that by such are all things accomplished in earth and in heaven? And yet, who hath not witnessed more failure than success? I do not desire to discourage thee, O Ahura, but I know so well the lack of faith on the part of all men, and that to get oneself weaned away from self is the weakest talent in the soul. And, for which reason, too, it is ultimately the greatest glory. But this would seem to me expedient to have Cpenta-Armij and her hosts do this resurrection for thee. 7. Ahura said, even thine every thought have I already fulfilled. And through the chieftainess came the Father's voice, commanding me to do this resurrection on mine own account. 8. To this Oahspe made no reply, but in his soul he was not free from the tetrarchs, being jealous that Ahura had advanced him in obtaining the Father's commands. But Ahura perceived it not, and he said unto Oahspe, the hosts of Elkin have been numbered, and there are 4,000 millions and 500 millions. And within the grades above Ascension there are 170,000 schools, 230,000 colleges, 400,000 factories, and 200,000 hospitals. 9. Behold, on the day of resurrection I shall have the Hanadwacha recreation for my hosts. Let this, then, be thy labor, to have the matter proclaimed throughout Elkin. Oahspe said, by Jehovah's leave and thine, I am satisfied. 10. Thus ended the matter, and Ahura remembered afterward, that Oahspe had not answered positive acceptance, and so Ahura feared, and, to make doubly sure, called Evasion, and committed the same charge to him. 11. Now when the time came, lo and behold, Oahspe fulfilled not his part, but Evasion did. And Evasion, moreover, came to Ahura, bringing answers from all the departments. 12. In the morning of the day of the resurrection, Ahura sent for Oahspe and inquired concerning the matter. Oahspe said, Nay, I issued not thy proclamation nor thy invitation. For I reasoned on the matter, saying to myself, if the resurrection be a failure, then would it indeed be better that the ignorant know not of it. 13. Ahura said, to do well one's own part. Is this not the highest? Oahspe said, it is the highest. Even so have I done that which seemed the highest in mine own sight. 14. Ahura said, the resurrection was not for thee nor for me, but for the hosts. For thou hadst previously admitted that the resurrection of this plateau was the highest, best thing to be done. Because it seemed impracticable in thy sight, thou wert not justified in withholding thy hand. Thou shouldst have striven to accomplish that which was for the universal good, not even whispering thy distrust to any one. Then, had it failed, thine own soul had been clear. For which reason Jehovah came to me, and I was so admonished to depute Evasion in thy stead, and he hath fulfilled my commands. 15. Oahspe made no reply, but went away in displeasure, and for the present the matter was dismissed. 16. Ahura has sent invitations to the lords of all the divisions of the earth, asking them to come, bringing their attendants with them. Of these the following came, to wit Oah, lord of Higitsi; Ha-Kappa, lord of Paradise; Lugam, lord of Rimi; Jessi, lordess of Cpenta; Ami, lordess of Kosman; Horam, lord of Flu; and Putz, lordess of Sinyot, each bringing 1,000,000 attendants, besides hundreds of thousands of visitors of lower grade. 17. Cpenta-Armij, with her visitors, Oaks, and Siwagun, and Ha, and 5,000,000 attendants, and 35,000,000 visitors, from Kreshivi, came in an avalanche made for the purpose. 18. The place of removal which Ahura had decided to inherit was in the second belt below Meteorus, known in atmosphere at that time as Varisha, which laid betwixt the land of Vindu and the star region known as the horse and cow and calf pastures, a heavenly place, uninhabited. From Elkin to Varisha was 14 hours in grade 25, which was the average of Ahura's hosts. But its enlargement in the upper belt would be as 15 to 9. 19. Cpenta-Armij and her hosts were the first to arrive in Ahura's dominion. For she had determined that nothing should lead to failure in Ahura's enterprise. Through her vice Ahura stationed water-bearers the entire distance of travel, lest, in the excitement, the Drujas might run into knots or riot. For such is the nature of darkness, both on earth and in the lower heavens. The low delight to dwell in a city, or near a place of filth, if companionable, rather than go to a place of isolation where improvement is possible. 20. Jehovah has said to Ahura, suffer not thy Drujas to know thou wilt remove them so far from the earth. Confide thou only with the wise in reference to thy destiny. Cpenta-Armij had said to Ahura, provide thy Drujas a holiday in parade, with rites and ceremonies. And Ahura perceived how the matter had to be, and he apportioned 80 millions of his hosts to provide parades, rites and ceremonies for the Drujas of his hosts, and of these Drujas, ranking below grade 5, there were 1,000 millions and 200 millions, being such angels as knew not the left hand from the right, nor could remember to count 5 from one day to the next. And yet the next 1,000 million, rating below grade 12, knew so little more, they were scarcely wiser than beasts in the field. 21. Cpenta-Armij, seeing these, exclaimed, O Jehovah, how long must Ahura labor with these in order to raise them to grade 99? O that they who set themselves up as gods knew what lay before them. O that leaders of men knew. O that mortal kings and queens knew the bondage that they lay down for themselves. What a work in the lower heavens for them before they can ascend. And yet, O Jehovah, thou art just. Some one must labor with these unfortunates. It is well that man aspireth to be king, and Lord and God. Chapter 8. 1. When they were assembled for the resurrection, the thousands of millions, Cpenta-Armij went and stood at the right hand of Ahura, and next to her stood Oahspe. And on the left hand stood Sewagun and Ha, and the voice of Jehovah fell upon Ahura, saying, extend my lines to the four corners of the world. Give into my labor the highest grades. 2. Accordingly, the marshals drew the line on the plateau, and the hosts of Etheria stood equally toward every corner, arranged in phalanxes of 10 millions each having the form of a quarter of a circle, leaving the lines of power from center to circumference, and the distance thereof was equal to the width of Vindu on the corporeal earth. And the center of the plateau was high raised, so that Ahura stood on the highest place, which laid near the capital of the council. 3. Now it so happened that the jealous Anuasau stood 12th on the east line, being the 13th from Ahura's left hand. Cpenta-Armij said to Ahura, behold, the line is shattered. Ahura said, I feel nothing. How sayest thou, the line is shattered? She answered him, saying, he who doeth Jehovah's work must deal as Jehovah dealeth. Only those who are in concert with thee must labor with thee. Otherwise thy best endeavors will be thwarted. Ahura said, 4. O thou far-perceiving goddess! In my much love and sympathy I admitted Anuasau to the lines. He hath been my best friend. Cpenta-Armij said, thou shalt know but one friend, Jehovah. 5. Ahura perceived, and he now felt the shattered place, and he sent his chief marshal to Anuasau to bring him from the rank. And when Anuasau was before Ahura, the latter said unto him, because thou servest thyself, thou shalt not stand in line. Behold, there is but one to serve, even Jehovah. Anuasau said, a joy upon thee in thy scheme. Because thou art powerless, thou hast singled me out as an excuse before these gods and goddesses. 6. Ahura made no answer, but spake before Jehovah, saying, give me strength for thy children's sake, O Father. Behold, I have cut loose the foundations of Elkin. With high extending cords I have bound her to Varisha. By virtue of thy power in me I will raise her up. In thy name, let my hosts in will command arise. Upward. Onward. O Elkin. Arise, upward, onward, O Elkin. Arise, upwards, onward, O Elkin. 7. With the third annunciation, which came from the thousands of millions in concert, behold, the plateau moved from her foundation. Turned a little, then slowly, upward arose. Loud shouted all the inhabitants of that heaven. With their own universal will the Great Spirit stretched forth his hand and raised up the heavenly continent. Even as with his hand he toucheth the corporeal continent and sendeth it beneath the ocean, so riseth he his heavenly places toward his emancipated worlds. Yea, because of his spirit upon his people, they desire it risen. With them and him, all is one. 8 And now, the gods, with unbroken will, held their places as it were a day for the corporeal earth, and not a god or goddess from the single purpose and thought strayed a moment of time and no distracting thought intervening. For such is the will and mastery of gods over their own thoughts. Even then, to keep up the concerted force joyously, those who had the druges in charge sat the games and tournaments going, with racing and music, such as should leave not one idle moment for all the hosts of Ailkin, nearly 5,000 millions. 9. Upward and onward rose the great plateau, making straight course for Varisha. Ahura stood in the eyes of the unlearned populace as the greatest and most masterly of all the gods. One alone, even Oahspe, stood awhile transfixed with disappointment and chagrin, even hoping some mishap to Jehovah's proceedings. And finally, he went wandering about, sore and out of sorts with all righteousness. 10. Thus was raised the heavenly place, and no longer called Ailkin, but Varisha, home of Ahura and his hosts. And now, when they were securely established in the place, and the gods and goddesses broke from line, they all came greeting to Ahura. And, even in the same moment of time, a messenger came from God, who was with Brahma on the corporeal earth, bringing to Cpenta-Armij the following commandment, by proxy, to wit 11. In Jehovah's name, give thou a throne and crown to Ahura for me, and in my name. I promised him thus. 12. The light came upon Cpenta-Armij, and Jehovah spake through her, saying, Behold the work of my hand, O Ahura, my son. In the substance of heaven fashion I thee a throne and high raise capital. And with mine own hands weave thee a crown. From this time forth thou shalt be my God, and I will abide with thee. 13. Whilst the words were being spoken, the throne rose up before Cpenta-Armij's hand, and a high-raised capital came and stood over and about the throne. And there descended from the heavens above bows of light and color, which in Cpenta-Armij's fingers were shaped and woven into a crown which alighted on Ahura's head. And there went up from the hosts a universal shout of praise and thanksgiving. Then broke in the trumpeters, 7 millions, and after they prayed a while, the Ezianors chanted, the concerted hosts of Jehovah. 14. Thus was founded Jehovah's heavenly kingdom, Varisha. Thus established Ahura his dominions where rebellion and secession were cut off forever. And Cpenta-Armij gave to Ahura 1,000 messengers, and opened a roadway to Creshivi. Ahura ascended his throne, and the gods and goddesses saluted him, God of Varisha, and they and their attendants departed to their several places. Chapter X. 1 In the 3rd year of dawn Jehovah spake to Cpenta-Armij, saying, Gather together the officers of thy traveling hosts, and take with thee thy companions, and go visit all the lords and lordnesses of the earth, of thy appointing. And let thy recorders make their accounts of the affairs of the earth and her heavenly kingdoms, that they may be taken to, and entered in, the libraries of the Nirvanian kingdoms. 2. Also shalt thou set thy collectors of brides and bridegrooms to work in Creshivi. And give to thy collectors otevans, that they may also visit thy Lord's kingdoms and collect all the angels prepared for the next resurrection, and bring them to Creshivi, where they shall be classified. For in the coming resurrection thou shalt provide 12 avalanzas, and those who are raised to the Etherean heavens thou shalt cause to be divided according to their grade and rate, and have them delivered into regions suitable to their advancement. 3. During the time prior to this, the lords had contributed largely to Creshivi, and already there were upward of 20,000 million angels capable of taking the third resurrection. The departure of Cpenta-Armij on this visit was important, for it involved the selection of the next succeeding god of earth and heaven, who should sit on the throne during her absence. At this time, the reigning god was with Brahma on the earth. To him Cpenta-Armij sent messengers, acquainting him with the commandments of Jehovah. 4. God answered through his messengers, saying, Greeting, in the name of Jehovah, to Cpenta-Armij, his daughter, Chieftainess. The reigning god deputed thee, O goddess, to make the selection in his stead, to be crowned at the termination of dawn. And now, accordingly, Cpenta-Armij sent forth her examiners, to search after the highest, best, most learned of all that had been raised up of the earth, capable of the Godhead. For 60 days her examiners were at work, and on the 60th day, in the evening, they had completed the search. And it fell upon Faala, of corporeal birth, 5,000 years. 5. Faal, a tiller of the soil in Corpor, born in spirit in Oahspe, 90 years. 5 years in Ascension. 30 years in factories. In the nurseries, 90 years. In the colleges, 180 years. Projector, 70 years. Surveyor, 65 years. Measurer, 200 years. Entered an Etherean era of Agna, and traveled 700 years. Returned to the lower heavens of the earth and was lord in 6 successions for each of the chief earth divisions 1200 years. Was called by Varisha, goddess of Nyagagha, to clear the roads of Chedshaya, beyond Chinvat, where he labored 600 years. Returned again to the earth and her heavens, and served as captain and general 400 years. Served as marshal 700 years, under 4 different gods and lords. And the balance of the time traveled as messenger and swift messenger. Of the rates in 1,000, he was 999. And he knew the whole earth and her capabilities. Could read 1,000 million voices at the same time, and interpret them and answer them, and had even created plateau. He knew the atmospherean heavens, habitable and uninhabitable. The roadways. The oceans and nebulous regions. Knew the ascending and descending knew the power in the different rings of the earth's vortex. Knew the Savorcum, and its times and places. 6. Cpenta-Armij sent a delegation of 1,000,000 angels to wait on Faal and bring him before the throne at Kreshivi, sending them in their private otevan, and under the guardianship of her chief marshal, with his commandment 7. Faal, of Faala, greeting to thee, in the name of Jehovah, who commandeth thy immediate presence at the throne in Kreshivi. Of all the honored in these heavens, thou standest first on the list, and art appointed by our Father the next succeeding God, through his daughter, Cpenta-Armij of Ahura. In my stead thou shalt sit on the throne whilst I complete my laboring dawn. After which thou shalt be crowned, of the earth and her heavens, Jehovah's God. 8. Cpenta-Armij knew Faal, for he had sojourned in Etsias, in Ahura, 300 years, where she had been surveyor 10,000 years. So when he came before Jehovah's throne, Cpenta-Armij was rejoiced to meet him in person. Nevertheless, she first saluted in rank, saying 9. My brother, welcome in the Father's name, and joy be unto thee. Jehovah hath called thee to this throne. Thou shalt be one of the pillars of his everlasting temples. What I put upon thee in the Father's name, thou shalt consider from him. 10. Faal said before thee, O Jehovah, I bow to thy decrees, which come through thy high-raised daughter, Cpenta-Armij of Ahura. I accept whatsoever is given me to do, that will raise up man to rejoice in his creation. By virtue of thy power in me, O Jehovah, I know I shall not fail. May thy light be upon me. 11. Cpenta-Armij now raised the light to the highest atmospherean grade, and said unto Faal, approach Jehovah's throne, O my brother, and hold up thy hands toward high noon, as the symbol of the highest light, for as the sun is to the earth and atmosphere, so is Jehovah to the soul of man and to the Etherean worlds. 12. Faal stepped on the foot of the throne, and the marshal stood at his side. The whole council were seated, and sweet music rose from the Ezinowers, and added to the solemn scene. Faal then faced the place of high noon in the temple and held up his hands, saying, I am in thy will, O Father. 13. Jehovah spake in the light over Cpenta-Armij's head, saying, Faal, my son, thou art my God, and thou shalt have dominion over the earth and her heavens for 200 years. Whatsoever thou shalt do shall be of me and my doing. Thy word shall be my word. Thy labor my labor. And thou shalt have lords and kingdoms, and all manner of heavenly places. And all of them shall be my places through thee. 14. And at the expiration of thy service, thou shalt raise up a successor to thee, who shall be worthy of thee and me. And he shall likewise have dominion in me and in my places. And likewise raise up a successor to come after him, and so on until the next dawn of Dan. Be thou joyful in dominion. My worlds are places of delight, and mirth, and peace, and love, and righteousness, and good works. 15. The voice ceased, and then Cpenta-Armij spake on her own account, saying, He who will crown thee will come at the end of dawn. Till then thou shalt hold dominion in the red hat in remembrance of the feast of the lions. Approach the judgment seat, my brother, and I will give to thee in Jehovah's name. With that, Cpenta-Armij gathered from the colored rays of light a substance light as Eth, and made a red hat and put it on Phaal's head, saying, Sit on the throne in remembrance of the feast of the lions, that I may be honored of thee, and rejoice before my hosts. 16. Phaal then sat down on the throne, and the council proclaimed in the sign, Lioness death. Phaal answered in the sign, Dominion of the Lamb. Thereupon Cpenta-Armij said, Counsel of Jehovah, hear my voice. A new God have I raised up unto my labor. And thou, O God, hear my voice. A new dominion have I given into thy keeping. 17. For 1 year I shall now visit my lords and lordnesses in the first plateau of the earth, for it is a part of my labor for the Father. And when I shall have finished with them, I shall return to my present reigning God of the earth, who is with Brahma, and I will deliver him in Brahma, and return again to this kingdom, whence the Etherian resurrection will take place. 18. Provide ye accordingly in all things, even as I would were I here. And number the brides and bridegrooms 160 days in advance, and send swift messengers to Etheria, to the Nirvanian fields and forests in Chinnashog, and thence through Salquatka to Heat-Sadi, in the Etherian Abram, finding 6 regions, suitable for grades from 60 to 90. And ye shall send greeting to my sister, Cpenta, goddess of Ombuyu, asking her to deliver us. 19. Thus saying, Cpenta-Armij, and Oaks, and Siwagun, and Hauha took leave, and in their own proper way departed out of Kreshivi, and in the air of Agna descended to the lowest plateau, and so visited the lords of the lower kingdoms. Chapter X. 1. The lords and lordnesses gave not much labor to Cpenta-Armij. For they had long been high-raised gods and goddesses in other worlds, and knew their parts well. But to each heavenly place Cpenta-Armij sent her heralds in advance, and the lords and lordnesses in turn sent receiving escorts to meet the heir of Agna. And when the chieftainess arrived, she was asked in the usual manner to honor the throne, and she thus sat on all the thrones, ruling in very person, and in her presence the voice of Jehovah spake in the light before the assembled council of the hosts, and it was thus fulfilled in the ark of Cpenta that the voice had circumscribed the whole earth. 2. And when Cpenta-Armij was about to depart from each heavenly place, she always descended to the foot of the throne of the Lord, and sat thereon. And the Lord went down and took her hand, saying, Arise, O goddess, and go thy way. The Father calleth thee. And then would she arise and depart to another lord or lordess, in like manner. 3. Cpenta-Armij took with her 3,000 angel scribes and recorders, 3,000 angel artists, 3,000 angel geologists and mineralogists, besides many others, whose trade was to make reports of the lands of the earth, and the waters of the earth, and the air above the earth, with pictures thereof. 4. Jehovah has said to Cpenta-Armij, Thou shalt make reports of the land and water and air of the earth, and of all the living thereon and therein, with pictures thereof. 2 copies shalt thou make. And when the end of dawn is come, thou shalt take the 2 copies with thee in thy ascension to my Etherian worlds. 1 copy shalt thou put on record in the library of Heat-Sadi, and the other copy shalt thou send to the high priest council of the united chiefs and chieftainesses, for their own deliberation. 5. For the high priest council shall determine from this, thy report, what is good for the earth, as to whether she shall be changed in her course, or broken up and divided, or whether she needeth Agi or Dan. And they shall send out road makers to that end, or send vortices against her vortex, to break it or rule over it, according to my light upon them. 6. Besides these, Cpenta-Armij had 1,000 recorders, whose business it was to prepare reports of the Lord's kingdoms, and of the factories, colleges, nurseries, hospitals, the hells, if any, and knots, if any. To record the grade and number of spirits in each heavenly place. To record the earthly kingdoms, and kings and queens and their subjects, their occupations and grades, and their rate of corporeal life age. To record the percentage of familiar spirits with mortals. The fetals, the drujas, as well as the ashers and asefs, and the temples and oracles in use by mortals. The altars and places of worship. To record the number of Ahins still inhabiting the earth. The number of pure Ahins, who worshipped only one great spirit. The Druk order, who always have idols or saviors, and are given to war. 7. 1 full moon of 4 quarters remained Cpenta-Armij with each one of the lords of the earth. And then she departed, going into all the habitable places on the earth, and in the heavens that rested on the earth. In 10 moons she had completed her labor with the lords of the first resurrection. Had witnessed the manner in which the Lord sent away the upraised to Creshivi, to enter the second resurrection. And her scribes and recorders had completed their labor also. 8. And now the Chieftaina sent her Aravagna back to Creshivi, with her visitors, Oaks, Siwagun and Haoha. But for herself she had a Piedmazar build. And, taking 10,000 attendants, besides the workers of the boat, she descended onto the very earth, to visit the 4 gods, in the 4 great divisions of the earth. With Eawahtah, with Brahma, with Abram, and with Po. With each of these she spent 12 days, and then she departed and went to Maitreya's, the heavenly place, the only lorddom of the earth, where ruled Yug-Sisu, with 30 millions. Here she remained 12 days also. And the inhabitants gave a tournament and festival. 9. After the Cpenta-Armij departed for Creshivi, for the end of dawn was near at hand. Chapters I. 1 In the council of Creshivi the voice of Jehovah came to Cpenta-Armij, saying, Behold, the time of thy sun and stars riseth in the road of Salquatka. The red star neareth the fields of Abram. Great Odasan hath filled the sinks and sloughs of Yasawakuk. Thousands of millions of my sons and daughters behold the feast of Cpenta. 2. Hear thou thy Creator, O Cpenta-Armij. For thou shalt spread broad the table of my hosts, such like as hath never been before in Heat-Sadi. And thou shalt send Obed, god of Oahspe, Kavani, goddess of Ipthor, Ab, Shriver seeing, Raci, goddess of Esdras, Wishtsi, god of Zuth, Harava, god of Yarnyan, Vragapayat, goddess of Zoe, and Lushung, god of Otabonaswichahaya. And thou shalt send for the gods and goddesses of the plains of Knochang, and for the gods and goddesses of the Kaihawoga roads, and for all the gods and goddesses in their own Nirvanian fields, and for the great chief, Shulo, of the roads of Gineasi, and for all the gods and goddesses in his dominions in my Etherian worlds. 3. And yet thou shalt remember of thine own knowledge many gods and goddesses. And thou shalt charge thy companions, Oaks, and Siwagun, and Haoha, to sit in council with thee, that ye may remember whomsoever of chiefs and chieftainesses, of shrevers and gods and goddesses, that may be delightful for. And thou shalt command them in my name to meet in the feast of Cpenta, for it is the first in this, my new world. Make way for them. Make place for them, O my daughter. Make wide the roadways in my lower heaven. Make my holy feast glorious. 5. Cpenta-Armij said, Too wide are the dens of earth, too far apart and cumbersome, O Father. More than 2,000 millions and 4,000 millions will be my harvest unto thee, O Jehovah. Great is thy wisdom in Cpenta. The time for the beginning of quarter ascensions, 50 years. 6. Thy gods and goddesses, O Jehovah, and thy chiefs and chieftainesses, will bind up these loose heavens into wholesome discipline. I will send my swift messengers into thy far-off Etherian worlds, and bring thy sons and daughters to thy feast. 7. Cpenta-Armij sent off into the wide heavens, high beyond the earth heavens, invitations to tens of thousands of high-raised sons and daughters of the Great Spirit. Then she called her surveyors and table-makers before Jehovah's throne, and said unto them, 8. The end of dawn is near at hand. I will give a feast, a very great feast. Go ye and survey the ground from Creshivi to the lakes of Uchilu, in Etheria, and for the length thereof make ye a width in the form of fate. And the road of the fate shall be sufficient for the passage of 12 avalons as abreast. And the depth of the fate shall be as from the surface of the earth unto Chinvat. Within 12 sayas of Abram, and of the height of the circuit of Bilathauchiun shall ye carry the border flames. And the flames shall be of double currents, going and coming, that the food of the feast may be brought from any region suited to the high-raised grades. 9. And the ark of the feast shall encompass the whole earth, and extend outward to the belt of Creshivi, and then downward in 2 lines, east and west. And the downward lines shall be like the feet of a compass, one stationary and the other movable. And the light that extendeth from the ark down the movable line shall rest on the delivered hosts of Abram, and it shall bear upon his people, that they may hereafter draw light direct from the Father's throne in Creshivi. And it shall move westward and be as an inheritance of Jehovah's light upon his corporeal sons and daughters. 10. But the line that standeth in the east shall be a base line and center, where there shall descend the Father's light upon the delivered sons and daughters of the hosts of Brahma and Po. And because of the ark of Cpenta upon them, they shall remain in their own divisions of the earth. 11. And for the deliverance of the harvests of the quarter, the high-raised horns of the ark shall stand to the 4 quarters, east, west, north and south. 12. Jehovah then spake through Cpenta-Armij, saying, For I will illume the horns thereof, and my new world, the earth and her heavens, shall rest in the light of my roads forever. That no man, having my examples before him, can misunderstand me. 13. Behold, it is given to a child, only 1 lesson a day. And to a youth, 2 lessons a day. And to a mature man, many lessons a day. So, in the early creation of man, I give few lessons. Then in the youthful age of the race, many more lessons. But when the race hath attained to full manhood, behold, I lay my light at their feet, that they may take my lessons every day. 14. In one time I send the angels of the dead to lead man up to a knowledge of me and my places. But when man hath attained to think for himself, I set up my ark of Cpenta. And it is as a candle in the firmament of heaven, wherefrom my light falleth upon the soul of my people, without any interpreter, save mine own voice. 15. For which reason, when one of my worlds hath attained to Cpenta, I come to deliver them from kings, and queens, and priests, and angels, and it is as the maturity of a son in his father's house, when he inviteth his neighbors and spreadeth a feast. 16. Open wide thy places, O Cpenta-Armij. A great joy is upon my Etherian worlds. My high-raised sons and daughters shall have great glory in the earth and her heavens. Behold, I have proclaimed myself in the words of mortals. 4 high-raised sons have learned to know their Father in heaven. Chapter 12. 1 Cpenta-Armij said, Who can understand thy models, O Jehovah? Who cannot understand thy models, O Jehovah? Thou hast shown to mortals the food of the flesh, and the source of the substance of the blood. As a symbol before them of thy Aeaean worlds and thy Aeaean peoples, thou hast created thy corporean members. To receive and to impart, but this is not all. Thou createdst poison, to show man that that which receiveth not, and imparteth not, is death. 2. Most wisely, O Father, hast thou provided the degrees of subsistence unto all thy creations, to the corporean, corporeal food; to the atmospherian, atmospheric food; to the etherian, etheric food. Wide will I spread my tables, O Jehovah. Thy gods and goddesses, and thy high-raised chieftains, shall sit at the feast of Cpenta. 3. The Chieftain sent swift messengers into the regions of Etherian worlds, near the roadway of the great serpent, 500,000 swift messengers. Down to the atmospherian regions she sent messengers to the gods and lords, her laborers, 10,000 messengers. To her invited guests she privileged each 1,000,000 attendants. 4. Next Cpenta-Armij sent 50,000 arrow ship makers in the regions of Cpenta-Armij, in the Etherian Itis, to prepare ceremonial salvers and connecting rods, so that all the thousands of millions, being united, could hear the voice of Jehovah from her throne, movable, in her Eravagna. 12 counterparts to these she sent down to the lowest heavenly regions, so the all-light should pierce the corporeal earth. 5. And now, when her well-skilled workmen, of tens of thousands of years' experience, had saluted and gone off to their respective labors, the Cpenta spake before the council, saying, because of my ark upon the earth and her heavens, the light of our Father will forever remain with mortals and in the hidden fields. But, behold, even as a young man, coming to maturity, goeth away on his own account, in great hope and self-conceit of his powers, to meet many misfortunes and great darkness, so will it be with the earth and her heavens after Cpenta. Because I plant my ark in these heavens, and say to the gods thereof, Ye are free. Behold, there shall rise numerous false gods of great power. And as a young man going forth is puffed up with conceit, so will the atmospherean gods believe they know all things, and so bring great darkness and misery upon their kingdoms and upon themselves. 6. But the light of my ark shall stand, shall grow like a small seed planted. And in time to come, both angels and mortals shall understand that there is but one all-light, a very center, to whom all gods are but as small diadems. As a young man of the earth must have experience of his own to realize his own shortness, so must even the gods of these lower heavens be left to run with a loose rein, for the glory of Jehovah, and for themselves in final deliverance. For which reason, hereafter, the bondage of the discipline of the God and his lords shall be as nothing. Only hells and nuts shall they longer cast out with fire and water. Only by persuasion, and the example of practice, shall they hold dominion in their respective places. 7. As in the early days, a king ruleth with a rod and with tyrannous laws. And as, in a riper age, the king and his armies give way to a power vested in the people, so shall my ark be the giving of the lower heavens, and the earth beneath, into the keeping of themselves. But my ark, which is the foundation of the Father's upper kingdoms within the lower heavens, shall stand forever. 8. I go, now, on my journey down to the earth, in my Eravagna, to receive and deliver my 4 gods, Oahspe, and Vishnu, and Yima, and Eliliah, God in chief. 9. Thus saying, Cpenta-Armij descended to the foot of Jehovah's throne, and the light fell upon Faal, and he rose up from the throne and descended, taking her hand, saying, Arise, O goddess, and hear thou the voice of thy Father, Creator and Ruler. Behold, thy labor on the earth and her heavens is near the end. And because of thy steadfastness, I am honored in thee, my daughter. 10. Whilst thou art delivering my gods, behold, I will be with thee, and whatsoever thou desireth of me I will give unto thee. My sons and daughters shall receive the visiting hosts from the high heavens, and allot them places in the feast. And my sons and daughters shall receive and adorn my brides and bridegrooms. And my trumpeters shall proclaim me in my works, from the surface of the earth to the farthest places in Salquatka. Yea, my light makers shall plant the staff of my holy fire in the throne of Kreshivi, and the foot thereof shall pierce the earth in the land of Vindu, to receive and deliver my earth son, Brahma. 11. Go thou, O Cpenta, Holy One, of great wisdom and power. It is the voice of thy Father. 12. Cpenta-Armij stood aside, and then said to ye, my beloved companions, Oahspe, and Siwagun, and Ha, when the staff of the Father's light hath ascended to the earth, come ye then to me quickly in my arrow ship of fire, for it shall be a signal betwixt us that in that hour I will raise up my gods from the corporeal earth. And I will open the earth and bring forth the bodies of my son, Brahma, and his wife, Utiv, whose youngest son holdeth the leaven of the Osirian law. And I will have there assembled the hosts of my 10 lords, and I will deliver into their hands, for their successors, the fulfillment of the divine laws. 13. Her companions responded in Jehovah's wisdom and power, we will be there. Chapter 13. 1. The light of Jehovah now spread over Heat Sadi and lined the road of Salquata, in Etheria, extending from the Orion banks of Luchewan to the Oixanian spars of Achisu. The crossroads, Kaiwachong, and the plains of Shatumats, were as seasoned worlds of crystal fire. And in the piercing light, the old-time gods, of millions of years agone, sped forth in awful majesty, in answer to the prayers of Cpenta-Armij. 2. And there rose over the earth and her heavens, farther than Chinvat, a trident arc, broad as a world, of shimmering light, the countless rays of Eth, as mortals see the glimmering air in a summer's day. But the Eth was of every color, hue and tint, reflective and brilliant, the clear soul of things separate, the very breath of Jehovah. It was the beginning of the form of the ark of Cpenta, the deliverance of the earth and her heavens into a new condition. To give, to bestow it upon itself, ratified by the ceremony of a festival for the gods and goddesses of that neighborhood, hundreds of millions of miles around about. 3. Meanwhile, their high-raised companion, Cpenta-Armij, known and loved in hundreds of Etherian worlds, was down on the low earth, laying the cornerstone for Jehovah's everlasting kingdom, whereon should fall, presently, from out the ark of Cpenta, a shaft of fire, the feast for the purified chieftainess, who had for 4 years subsisted on the coarse provender of the lower heavens. 4. And, touched by the hand of immortal light, was Brahma, long trained to look toward Jehovah. For his angel wife rose upward, leading his vision toward a realm amongst the gods and goddesses, whom he beheld in countless numbers receiving her most royally. Thus gazing on the glorious scene, the great man in soul came forth, leaving his corporeal parts stretched on the ground. And Cpenta-Armij and God took him, received the soul of Brahma, and held, in obedience to the sacred purpose, his place in the sacred circle with mortals 3 days. 5. Then, on the 4th, the chieftainess signaled her swift messengers. And they touched the currents along, till they ran high beyond the earth's vortex, where the stationed gods of Etheria fastened on the etheric wave, extending to the great arc over all. 6. It was the signal for the shaft of light, of which mortals have a weak and coarse symbol in the electric currents which tear things unmeaningly and without judgment. But the etheric current is not so small and purposeless, but mighty, and a tool from Jehovah's fountain of all power, with skill, and learnedly directed by such high-raised angels as have had millions of years of experience, who know well what prayers deserve an answer from the immortal spheres. 7. And Cpenta-Armij's name, and word, and wisdom, had long been in fellowship with mighty works on many worlds. And her well-trained thought, so tuned to the Creator's purpose, kept ever in concert with the etheric foundation of the place and administration of thousands of gods and goddesses. 8. And when the signal shot upward, and the shaft of light began to pierce the earth's vortex, making way for Kreshivi, it was also the signal for Oaks, and Siwagun, and Ha, to fly instantly for their arrow ship and make all speed for Cpenta-Armij. The which they did now, even as a flash of light darteth forth, guides and directors of Jehovah's flame to the grave of Brahma and Eawahtah. 9. As Cpenta-Armij, standing by her ship, saw the shaft descending, she flew forth to the center of the circle. Her hand pointing to the graves, she said there, O Jehovah! Come forth, O earth! Earth, in Jehovah's name! 'Tis I command. 10. And down fell the bolt of light, piercing the new disturbed ground, rich with mortal tears, and thus made powerful to the soul current. And as a breath of wind would move a heap of feathers, so did the light, by the wave of Cpenta-Armij's hand, blow the earth away, and lift up the buried forms of 2 dead lovers, Brahma and Eawahtah, and march them full before the mortal audience, newly animated, and lovingly, hand in hand, triumphant over death. 11. Then spake Hog, the youngest mortal son, an Osirian in belief, seeing the resurrected forms, it is, the very Brahma and Eawahtah, my father and mother. 12. The great Brahma, now quickened in Cpenta-Armij's arms, and gods, spake from Jehovah's throne, a few words, to the loving sons and mortal concourse, then took final leave. Cpenta-Armij seized the folds of the shaft of light, as a mortal would the ropes and canvas of a toy ship, and wrapping the earthly part of Brahma and Eawahtah about securely, then willed in line her own ship and raked in the Etherian current from high heavens. 13. Tossing up her hand, the known signal to the great workers in the trident arc above, the exchanging currents of the traveling flame began, and now raised up the whole Etherian hosts and the bodies of Brahma and Eawahtah, the which had not raised a mile before they were etherealized, scattered and gone, and the souls of the two sweet loves in cognizance and fellowship with the millions of Jehovah's sons and daughters now swiftly making way for Creshivi. 14. Cpenta-Armij's work was done. In the ark of light and companionship of her compeers, the feast was open, and the thousands of millions in rapport sat along the series of tables, hundreds of millions of miles, to relish soul food brought from more than 1,000 worlds. 15. Meanwhile, God, to finish his labors, resumed his throne in Creshivi, just in time to receive the 12 avalanzas sent from Yakout's factories, in Abram, in Etheria, to receive the 24,000 million brides and bridegrooms in Jehovah's name, who are to take the degree of third resurrection and be raised beyond the earth's vortex and emancipated in the Etherian realms of Oahspe. 16. Cpenta, goddess of Ombuyu, chief commanderess of the fleet, having been apprised of the number of initiates, had prepared 12,000 rings, 1,000 for each avalanza. And the fleet in turn was in a ring, and the ring extended sufficiently wide to encircle the holy capital and throne in Creshivi, so that when it had descended to its place, God and his officers, and the holy council of heaven and earth, now 30 million members, were in the center of the audience. On every side, far as the eye could see, stood the brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, arrayed in spotless white, fearless before the light and ceremonies. 17. When the fleet landed, Cpenta, the commandress, came forth from the east, facing God on the throne. She said, "Thy voice, O God, hath called the name of Jehovah. Behold, I am his daughter, sent by him to know thy will and holy desires." 18. God said, "Behold, I am his son. Thou art my sister. Hear me, then, in our Father's name. I have here a harvest of 24,000 million angels brought up out of the earth, pure and holy, for Jehovah's emancipated kingdoms." 19. Cpenta said in his name, "Let them answer before me, that I may witness their wisdom and power sufficient to dwell in all purity. My Father and I are one. My hosts have crossed the Nirvanian pastures. They no longer feed on substance rising from below, but on the light emanating from Etherian realms above." 20. God said, "I know thou hast provided me, O Jehovah." 21. Then here responded the hosts of brides and bridegrooms, saying, "By faith I know I am safe in thy kingdoms, O Jehovah. Take me to thy emancipated worlds. Give me scope and power and wisdom for greater works." 22. Then followed the full ceremony in the usual way of the third resurrection. And when it was completed, the which had been witnessed by Cpenta-Armij and other chieftanesses and chiefs above, who were at the feast of the ark of Oahspe. And when God had said, "O Jehovah, give me crowns for thy sons and daughters, brides and bridegrooms for thy Etherian worlds," they were cast down by Cpenta-Armij and her hosts, 24,000 million crowns. And they alighted on Jehovah's brides and bridegrooms' heads. 23. And now God turned to Thael, who was to be his successor for the next 200 years. God said in Jehovah's name, "To thee I bestow the crown of earth and her heavens. And to thee also do I bequeath the triangle, symbol of these regions, and the inqua, and the trident, the latter being new in these worlds, and symbolical of the ark of Oahspe. And the interpretation of the trident shall be the three lights, Jehovah, his Son, God, and the star in the mortal soul, emblem of resurrection." 24. Thael said, "In thy name, O Jehovah, will I be God of earth and her heavens till the next rise of Dan. Be thou with me, O Father." 25. Thereupon, he that had been God laid the crowning jewels on Thael, saying, "Hail, O God of earth and heaven! Hail, O God of earth and heaven! Hail, O God of earth and heaven!" 26. Thus ended the ceremonies. He that had been God descended to the foot of the throne and sat down. And then God, who had been fail, came down and took his hand, saying, Arise, O God, and go thy way. And he rose up and prepared to depart, for now had the ceremonies lasted 1 full day. 27. Cpenta-Armij, seeing it was finished, signaled the hosts for the close of the festival, and with her Aravagna passed over and above the fleet, and gave Cpenta, the commandress, the sign, whereupon the ascent began. The tens of thousands of millions of angels entered their respective places. The music of the Ezianors and of the trumpeters sounded, and resounded, to the distance of 100 worlds. 28. Upward rose the fleets. Downward fell the showers of flowers and perfumes to those left behind. Higher and higher the great world of lights. Higher and higher, till soon they passed beyond the earth's vortex, the boundary Chinvat. End of the book. Cpenta-Armij, daughter of Jehovah.